Good morning. This is Northern Light for Thursday, April 20th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
The state budget is 3 weeks late, and it likely won't come before Monday. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins says a key sticking point is the governor's housing plan.
Within the context of all of this, we have to be very clear that we need real tenant protection. So it's a big objective. It's an important objective.
Also, we'll get a preview of the day-long North Country Folk Festival at St. Lawrence University on Saturday.
My favorite part of Folk Fest is always the local bands. Specifically, one of my professors plays in one of the bands that we've had for the past couple years, and I always love seeing her up there playing the guitar.
And science and music meet today. Paul Smith's Glenn McClure and Jim Brannigan with the Lake Champlain Basin Program combine music and lake data to share in concerts in the Adirondacks and Quebec. Plus, we've got a sound quiz sent in from a listener. We'll see if Todd can guess it. All of that is coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by Cronin's Golf Resort, a regional destination for golf, dining, and lodging in the Southern Adirondacks. Details at croninsgolfresort.com, and by AdirondackExplorer.org and the AdirondackAlmanac.com, seeking solutions to the Adirondack Park's challenges in print and online.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. New York's Independent Redistricting Commission will vote on whether to approve new assembly district lines today. The commission's first set of lines were thrown out last year after a lawsuit challenged them. A public meeting will start at 12:30 this afternoon in the Legislative Office Building in Albany, and it'll be live streamed on the commission's website, nyirc.gov. The commission will also vote on whether to send the finalized assembly district map to the full legislature.
The hospitals in Plattsburgh and Malone are rolling back COVID-related masking and testing requirements. Masks are now optional for patients and visitors in all areas at Champlain Valley Physicians Hospital and Alice Hyde Medical Center. Employees still have to wear masks in patient rooms, exam rooms, and while providing direct patient care. Anyone with COVID-like symptoms will be required to wear a mask. Both hospitals will continue to provide free surgical masks at their entrances. The two hospitals are also no longer requiring asymptomatic patients to test before procedures. The facilities say the revisions align with the State Department of Health guidelines.
The state's budget is almost 3 weeks late and will not be completed this week. Governor Kathy Hochul and the legislature are planning to pass a fourth spending extender today to get the state through the next few days. Karen DeWitt has a look at what's holding things up.
Senate Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins says there will not be any agreement on a new spending plan until at least Monday.
Unfortunately, it's not this week.
But she says they are at the beginning of the end of discussions.
I hope that we are able to just get to a point where I can come in and tell you that it is the end of the end very, very soon.
The Senate leader says the budget is taking longer to settle because Governor Hochul added many policy issues into her spending plan, including revisions to the state's bail reform laws. Hochul is seeking a change that would give judges more discretion to set bail when a defendant is accused of a serious crime. The change would eliminate a clause that requires judges to use the least restrictive means to ensure someone will return for a court date. There were some published reports that a deal had been struck on bail, but Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, after a meeting with the governor, says there's no agreement.
I don't think anything's been finalized. unfinalized.
Hochul, who has not spoken publicly for several days, issued a statement indicating that another top budget priority for her, housing, may be on the ropes. The governor is seeking a state law to override local zoning laws. It's part of a plan to build 800,000 more housing units over the next several years. The legislature, facing blowback from suburban members, wants to instead offer grants to communities willing to build more homes. Hochul, in her statement, says after weeks weeks of negotiations, the legislature continues to oppose core elements of the housing compact. She says she does not believe that incentives alone will solve the state's affordable housing crisis, but says she's willing to talk about other parts of her plan instead. Senate Leader Stuart Cousins would not confirm that any part of the governor's housing plan is now off the table, but she says any final deal must include protections for tenants.
I've always said that within the context of all of this, we have to be very clear that we need real tenant protection. So I think those things have always been the driving force around how we proceed with housing. It's a big, big objective. It's an important objective.
Stuart Cousins would not say, though, that the tenant protections must include the good cause eviction bill supported by several lawmakers, including the Senate and Assembly chairs of the housing committees.
Do the right thing, New York State. Our care cannot wait.
Earlier in the week, advocates rallied at the Capitol in an attempt to see their issues included as part of the budget. Home healthcare workers and their allies, including Maurice Brown with the Healthcare Workers Union, SEIU, rallied for higher wages.
We are living through the gravest cost of living crisis in 40 years. And New York faces the worst home care shortage in the nation because the state underpays home care workers.
Stuart Cousins says raising the minimum wage and indexing future increases to the rate of inflation are still being discussed, as well as Hochul's proposal to open more charter schools and funding for the Downstate Metropolitan Transportation Authority. But she says nothing has been decided on anything yet. In Albany, I'm Karen DeWitt.
A man from Connecticut fell about 40 feet while climbing on a rock cliff in the Adirondacks on Sunday. According to state officials, the 23-year-old climber suffered significant injuries. Forest rangers responded to the accident on Sunday, which happened at the Spider's Web, a popular rock climbing spot in Keene just north of Chapel Pond. Climber was hoisted out of the woods by rangers in a state police helicopter and taken to Marcy Field in Keene Valley. He was then transferred to a medevac helicopter and flown to the hospital.
The state attorney general's office is co-hosting a community gun buyback event in Plattsburgh later this month. On Saturday, April 29th, the AG's office and local law enforcement will accept firearms at the Clinton County Fairgrounds in exchange for prepaid gift cards. Compensation ranges from $25 for a non-working gun to $500 for an assault rifle or ghost gun. There's no limit on the number of firearms an individual can turn in, but the guns must be unloaded and placed in a bag or box. This is an amnesty program, so no questions will be asked about the person dropping off the gun.
A student from Clarkson University died in an apparent suicide this week. Stone Mercurio was found dead yesterday after multiple police agencies searched the area for him. This story takes about 1 minute. Kara Chapman has more.
Stone Mercurio was a freshman at Clarkson University. He was 18 years old. The university says Mercurio was studying mechanical engineering and grew up in Rome, New York. Clarkson safety and security officers were unable to locate him on campus for a welfare check Tuesday night. That set off a multi-agency search of the Potsdam area. Potsdam police say his body was found Wednesday morning, and it appears he died of self-inflicted injuries. The St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office is investigating his death. In a statement, Clarkson sent condolences to Mercurio's family, friends, faculty, and classmates. The university said, quote, "During this time of great loss, we are reminded of the importance of community." Clarkson has set up support services for students, faculty, and staff. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
If you or someone you know is thinking about suicide, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 10 minutes past 8. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Just ahead, we'll learn about a project that will use music and creativity to try to inspire and inform citizens about the Lake Champlain Basin. That conversation coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light.
This is music by the Wickmore Jazz Trio out of Plattsburgh. Check out more of their music online, ncpr.org/_. Northern Light is supported by Renew Architecture and Design, offering custom design services from the St. Lawrence River Valley to the Adirondacks. More at renewarchitecture.com. And by Gray & Gray & Associates, CPAs, an accounting and financial services firm in northern New York with offices in Canton, Potsdam, and Spring Hill, Florida. GrayCPAS.com.
St. Lawrence University is hosting its annual Folk Fest this Saturday, where students and community members are invited to enjoy live music and support local businesses. NCPR intern Maya Mackey spoke with the small group of students planning and running the event.
On Park Street in Canton, there's a tiny house with sage green siding and a big front porch. It's called the Greenhouse. The SLU students who live here share an interest in sustainability. They also organize the annual Folk Fest. It's an outdoor music festival that happens every spring on the campus quad. Sophomore Greenhouse member Alex Kargas says he's had the most fun when performers interact with the audience and lead group dances.
They let us in these concentric circles, and I can't even describe it. You just have to come and see it. It's fantastic.
The students say they work hard planning the festival. But senior Tegan Anderson says it's worth it because she sees how important it is to the community beyond campus.
All our small bands are from the local area, and they're people who really love this event, like someone coming up to our porch to ask us if he can play again this year because he plays all the time.
Senior Cambro Shue is most excited to hear his favorite band called 9 Miles from Town.
My favorite part of Folk Fest is always the local bands. Specifically, one of my professors plays in one of the bands that we've had for the past couple years, and I always love seeing her up there playing the guitar.
Senior Jane Krausman says that she loves when people from town come to hang out on campus.
You can just kind of come in and go out as you please, just like be in the space however it's going to fill you the most.
Senior Sabi Linza loves how the music brings people together.
The way it's able to kind of celebrate the North Country and kind of bring in the community to campus and enjoy a day together through music and kind of just celebrating a combination of SLU culture and also the local area.
Folkfest is taking place on Saturday, April 22nd on the St. Lawrence University Quad, and the music starts at noon. Some of the bands include Damn Tall Buildings and the Oshima Brothers. Maya Mackey, North Country Public Radio.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up in just a minute, we'll see if we can stump Todd with a sound quiz sent in by a listener. Also, how science and music allow us to listen to Lake Champlain's voice. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
Some sunshine today and tomorrow. Partly cloudy along eastern Lake Ontario, but the rest of the regions should see the sun today and tomorrow. Highs near 60 this afternoon, light winds out of the northwest. Lows in the 30s, near 40 overnight tonight. And tomorrow, highs in the 70s with partly to mostly sunny skies. Then rain moving into the region, some scattered showers Saturday and Sunday and Monday. Highs in the low 70s on Saturday, a high near 60 on Sunday. We have partly cloudy skies, 37 degrees right now in Canton.
So regular listeners know that we have this segment from time to time called a sound quiz. That's where myself or listeners record some sound in our world and play it on the air for Todd to see if he can guess it. So a listener sent in this sound, and usually the case is that Todd has not heard the sound before. This person, I think, accidentally sent the audio to both of us without a description, though. So Todd has heard it, but right, Todd, we were sort of joking that you kind of needed a week to think about it. So let's listen to it and see if Todd can guess what it is. Todd has his eyes closed. He's rubbing his temples, thinking really hard.
Okay, so some guesses. How many guesses do I get? All right. At first, I thought that it sounded like a campfire.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Sounded like flames and wood crackling and so on. So I thought, well, maybe it's somebody boiling maple syrup, boiling sap. So it's outdoors. I got that right?
Yes,
it's outdoors.
It is outdoors,
okay.
yes.
Okay, it's outdoors. So I have heard this sound before. I don't know what it is. So it's outdoors.
I'm an eco-musician.
Let's see. Let's listen again. Outdoors. It's something breaking?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it in the woods?
It's not in the woods.
Not in the woods, but it's outdoors. Something that sounds like it's cracking or breaking. It's not fire. It's not like twigs.
It's not twigs.
It's not twigs. It's not tree branches. I'm hearing icicles.
Oh, interesting. What an interesting sort of thought, an ice-related thought.
I give up. I mean, it sounds like something crackling, something breaking, and we could go on for 15 minutes with me guessing, but we won't. I'm going to just guess that it's like something breaking up outdoors. This month probably.
Yes, this was recorded. That's sort of a hint. It was recorded on the last day of March.
Not something burning or boiling.
Not burning or boiling,
okay.
no.
I give up. Who sent this to us?
So this was sent in by Matt Maciano. He lives out near Paradox Lake. That's sort of in between North Hudson and Scroon Lake. So this is, he said it's the slowly thawing lake ice against the rocky shoreline on Paradox Lake, where they live.
Slowly thawing lake ice.
Yes.
Ooh.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I know. That's.
I love that.
I totally was in campfire mode, but isn't that cool?
That is amazing, Matt. Thank you so much. I love that. Now I can hear it. I can hear that sort of sound of the ice cracking and sort of maybe going out into the lake or something with that sort of ambience. Very cool.
Yes, and Matt, to thank you for sending in a sound, we will be sending you
and stumping me.
And stumping Todd. You did it. I think. Yeah, I think. Yes, 3 for us listeners, myself and listeners, 20,000 for Todd. He's really good at guessing. So great job, Matt, for being able to stump him. To thank you for sending that in, we'll be sending you a Northern Light mug. And if you've got a sound in your world that you think could stump Todd, please send it in. Email monica@ncpr.org with a little bit of a description for what that is. And you just might hear it on the air.
Fire and ice. Well, ice in this case. I love it. I love it.
This is Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. Time coming up now on 20 after 8. I am Monica Sandreski with Todd Moe, an Adirondack musician who has traveled around the world turning scientific data into sound, has a new challenge, working with apprentice composers to write choral and orchestral music based on water quality data collected in the Champlain Valley. The Lake Champlain Basin program has chosen Paul Smith's college composer Glenn McClure as one one of its artists in residence this year. He'll work with scientists and data from the Lake Champlain Basin, which includes a watershed that spans eastern New York, western Vermont, and southern Quebec. And it's expected to culminate with concerts in 2024 in the Adirondacks, Vermont, and Quebec.
I spoke with Glenn McClure and Jim Brannigan with the Lake Champlain Basin program about this project that will use music and creativity and the arts to inspire and inform citizens about the lake environment.
My name is Glenn McClure. I'm an eco-musician and composer. I currently teach at Paul Smith's College. I'm the lead artist in the Artist in Residence program at the Lake Champlain Basin project called Watershed Voices.
I'm Jim Brannigan. I'm the Cultural Heritage and Recreation Coordinator for the Lake Champlain Basin program. The Basin program has been around through an act of Congress since 1990, and we have been actively working with partners through our grants program for more than 30 years.
And when we talk about, Jim, the Lake Champlain Basin, we're talking the New York side, the Vermont side, Quebec, all those areas. Anything that kind of empties into the lake, is that the idea?
Absolutely. The basin is about 9,000 square miles, and on the New York side, the furthest west it goes is Mount Marcy, and it drains down through several different rivers on the New York side. In Vermont, it goes all the way out to Hyde Park and further east than that, and up into the eastern townships of Quebec as well. So it's a rather large area, and we're lucky enough to have well over 400, 500 organizations that are working with us on the issues facing Lake Champlain, not just the natural issues, but also the cultural issues as well.
And Glenn, maybe I'll start with you and give you a chance to sort of talk about this merger of the arts and science and water and the environment, and what was kind of the spark for you in terms of getting involved as artist in residence.
I'm the lead composer for the project. I'm going to be mentoring 3 other composers, and we're going to be taking scientific data from the watershed. We're working with scientists like Dr. Kurt Steger here from Paul Smith's College, and sonifying that data, taking lists of numbers and turning it into musical notes that become the raw material for new pieces for choirs, for orchestras, and that sort of thing.
And Jim, does this become a sort of a way for your program to communicate what's going on in the lake and illustrate or make it more accessible maybe to the public?
Yeah, I think the word we're looking for is interpretation. We have, over the last 3 decades, really focused on interpretation, whether it's education to students ranging from kindergartners to college students, even to adult learners. Education is a cornerstone of the work we do. Interpretation plays a strong role in that because not everyone truly understands the scientific data that's coming out of the research that we're doing on Lake Champlain and its tributaries. And so the arts allows us to use that raw information and to convert it into something that people get a better understanding for, a better feel for. The whole idea is to basically create a better sense of understanding. So if somebody is recreating on Lake Champlain in a canoe and they decide that, this is a pretty special place and I want to learn more about it, that creates that link between appreciation and understanding. And once you start understanding what the issues that any natural or cultural resource faces. Once you start understanding those issues, the better steward you are apt to become.
Give us an idea of, you've worked with other artists, visual artists, poets, writers. Are there other examples of some of these collaborations,
absolutely.
what you would like to work with?
From a historical lens, right? Let's look at how effective art can be on an issue. In the 1980s, when the AIDS epidemic was hitting us so hard, one of the most poignant and I think a watershed point for the AIDS epidemic was the AIDS quilt that was put on the National Mall. That gave people a visual understanding of just how many families AIDS were affecting. And you can even go as far back as the early 1800s with the Hudson River School. The magnificent landscapes that Church and the others were developing gave people in an urban setting a better understanding of the majesty of America's natural landscapes and gave them an impetus to want to save those landscapes. And so we have a unique opportunity with the arts to help people better understand, how phosphorus is affecting Lake Champlain, or how invasive species can change an entire natural ecosystem. We can even use the arts to focus on cultural issues, on the Native American perspective on Lake Champlain and water quality.
And Glenn, as a composer, we don't want to necessarily let the cat out of the bag, but are you already formulating some ideas as to what you want to do in terms of how you take this scientific information and interpret it through music?
There's two ways to kind of approach that. One is a sort of a specific process. In the composing world, this sort of new burgeoning industry of sonification, the notion that we want to tell a story of a natural space with a tangible connection to the space. When the wonderful Czech composer Smetana writes the Moldau, he writes this gorgeous tone poem of a river that starts with a trickle and ends up with this great power, right? He writes that from the standpoint of his personal experience of observing the river. It's an emotional human response to the space, which is what composers do all the time, right? And I do that too. However, sonification allows us to add another layer of connection. It allows us to say, okay, it's not just Glenn's emotions that are depicting this natural phenomenon. It is the natural phenomenon speaking to us in very concrete, empirical, measurable ways. For all of you fans of ancient Greek philosophy, the great Pythagoras, he said, everything is number. We can take everything in the world and describe it in numbers, and once you have it in numbers, then you can transfer it to other stuff, right? So what we have a chance to do here with sonification is to create a tangible toehold into the notes that go on the page that are sung that actually can be connected empirically to the natural world.
Paul Smith's college composer Glenn McClure and Jim Brangan with the Lake Champlain Basin program. Glenn is one of its artists in residence this year. He'll work with scientists and data from the Lake Champlain Basin, which includes a watershed that spans New York, western Vermont, and southern Quebec. And then he'll work with other composers. It's expected to culminate with concerts in 2024. 28 minutes past 8. This is Northern Light. And I just want to mention a storytelling event coming up tonight at SUNY Plattsburgh. You can join folks there. They'll be talking about healing and community. It's a storytelling performance co-created with director Julia Devine, and it features Emily Kasanetskak's Stacy sharing her stories of survival as a Mohawk woman growing up in Plattsburgh and as a descendant of residential school survivors and intergenerational trauma. 7 o'clock tonight. It's at 7 o'clock tonight. Krinovitz Recital Hall and Hawkins Hall on the SUNY Plattsburgh campus. And then there's a Q&A following the show at 8 o'clock and a racial healing circle at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the first floor of the Angel College Center before the performance. Everything is free and everyone is welcome, students, faculty, staff, and members of the community.
And also don't forget to plan to come and join NCPR music host Doyle Dean, who is giving a special live broadcast of his show, The Dean's List, this coming Monday, April 24th, from 3 until 5 o'clock at SUNY Potsdam's Gibson Gallery. The public is encouraged to attend. It's free, and you're going to get to hear the Dean's List signature mix of what's new and good and indie rock. It's also a way to kick off the university's Loco Arts Festival, which officially starts that Friday. You can find out more at potsdam.edu/loco.
That's it for Northern Light on this Thursday, the 20th of April. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Be well.